The Office works without Michael Scott. The Office is good without Steve Carrell. There are moments in Season 8 that are as good or better than those golden years of The Office. But to be fair, those moments are few and far between, and what is between is a considerable amount of confusing decisions and half-thought-through shenanigans.
What is this?
And as such, the season is considered subpar, measured in plummeting viewership, IMDb scores, critical reception, and like 1,000 Facebook posts a day. But was it just that the keystone of the series was gone, and as such, the whole thing came crumbling in? Maybe, but that's also a cop-out, I believe, after this year. As close of a metaphor as I can come up with, The Office without Michael Scott is like giving up gluten. Life is for sure different. It's painful to give up something you love, but over time you just adjust to a new normal. So if it wasn't just that Michael was missing that caused Season 8 to suffer, then what was it? Well, in the last field guide, I read a quote by BJ Novak on why he turned down the showrunner position for the 9th season of The Office, and then ultimately quit at the end of Season 8. The final line of that quote is a reduction, maybe, of all of his motives. I didn't have the love. Now, people do things all the time that they don't love, but creative jobs are always a labor of love. And if there's no love for what you're making anymore, well, most creatives just move on. And that's because once you've been on a project for so long, you tend to lose a creative fire for it. All that's left over is technique. And techniques like how to write a 22-minute sitcom episode will, interestingly enough, produce a 22-minute television show, but AI can do that now.
Boobs.
Well, not really, thanks to the writer's strike of last year, but you know what I mean. When we lose creative fire, we become a robot just running through the motions. And a robot can paint on canvas, but is it art?
Meaning real art takes courage, okay, and honesty. That's why this is motel art.
We know BJ left after a soul-crushing, shit-filled finale. He said as much. Mindy also left. The Office, over its last 8 seasons, was beginning to have diminishing returns. Many of the original showrunners, producers, main actor, and writers were now gone and doing quite well with other projects. At this point, everyone was tired, overworked, and certainly stressed under the pressures of delivering one of the biggest shows on US television against very high cynicism and skepticism. So what happens when you take jaded OG writers mixed with jokey new school writers and a showrunner who is literally Toby?
Sorry, just picture me back there. I was never here.
Well, it gets complicated. So, meet complicated.
Say no more.
If we did have something, what would it look like? What would it be?
Senor Lodenstein, that's stupid.
What are they doing?
Closing ceremonies.
I'm fine, bitch. I'm fine.
And shove it up your butt.
It's not that funny.
I need something to grab onto.
I've been getting weird looks all day because I'm pretty sure DM does GB means something kind of sexual.
Bitch.
Wow. Thanks, guys. That sounded amazing.
This is a party.
How is jury duty?
To go to Tallahassee for 3 weeks to develop and launch a chain of Sabre stores.
Yes! So let's talk about this Sabre store then.
So smug. Like he thought it was funny, like this.
That fits all other shapes inside of it.
No, that's...
It's true.
Jackie Chan!
I'm in Florida to get Aaron.
Why is Jim treating the magician poorly? Andrew is the rightful manager, so if you would just give him his office.
No.
Like that rock opera. You could always do that, right?
Yeah, I do. I have that.
Anyway, Robert's gonna run this company into the ground, so we won't be doing this in 6 months.
But let's dig into the worst season of The Office, the main arcs, how they all intersect to tell a bigger story, and spend some time ranting about all sorts of things along the way. It should be fun, or bleak, or both. Let's go.
I understand nothing.
You either get it or you don't. And I don't.
but I am so excited to be a part of it.
Season 8 picks up with the documentary resuming filming after a summer break, and we find out that Robert California was offered the position of regional manager of Dunder Mifflin Scranton.
One look around and left. He drove down to Florida and convinced Joe to make him CEO.
Quickly thereafter, Robert installed Andy as regional manager. And look, we always knew it was going to be this way. The warning signs were there ever since The Hangover came out. And BJ Novak, writing this episode, wasted no time in trying to sort out if this was a good decision or not.
I guess I think they're losers.
The list sees Robert California's inner ranking system come to light. The entire staff are divided into two camps, winners and losers. There's a lot of interesting nuance on how these arbitrary groupings can impact interpersonal relationships, and we get to see some of the intrigue that the character of Robert California can introduce to the Scranton branch.
Jim, your daughter Cecilia, what does she think of the street?
Oh, and Pam's pregnant.
I don't care.
Which I do wish was a little bit more used, but I don't really know what they could have done because she was pregnant in real life.
Now I'm just a fat mom. Yeah, and you take one look at me and you're like, oh, loser.
Come here, Pam. Chin's up, okay?
The incentive, as if speaking directly to me, seeks to explore the question of why Andy?
I don't know. I don't know.
Robert challenges Andy to make more money, and Andy, now properly incentivized, creates an incentive program for his staff.
For 5,000 points, I will let you tattoo whatever you want on the stern of the old SS Bernard.
Which works way better than expected.
Took him one day.
As a result, Andy gets the Nard dog tattooed on his butt, and Robert reveals his play is that people will be rooting for the under Nard dog. Also, Pam Halpert and Angela Lipton try to be friends. It's a thing that happens in this episode. Speaking of that, people always talk about how we missed out on a Michael Scott wedding, and we for sure did. But I do wonder what the Angela and State Senator wedding would have been like.
As a lover of elegant weddings, I'm a little excited.
Lotto continues the justify Andy as manager arc when the warehouse staff quit after winning a seemingly small amount of money to leave their jobs. And don't fight me, that actually was the consensus when I asked that in the field guide. They're gone nonetheless, creating a paper jam in the warehouse as Daryl has to come to grips with the decisions that led him from the warehouse, but without the regional manager position. While Daryl and Andy grapple with these things, hiring Nate and then presumably Val in the process, Dwight, Jim, Aaron, and Kevin are tasked to keep the wheels of history moving.
Blood alone moves the wheels of history!
Except with less blood and more grease on the floor to create a slip and slide. This bit is fun and it's dumb, but I think it's intended to reinforce that Daryl's colorblind job is important and there's work for him to do and a place for him up in the office.
My future is not going to be determined by 7 little white lotto balls. It's going to be determined by 2 big black balls.
Garden Party serves to further deepen the justify Andy as manager arc, and it sees Andy putting on an elaborate party at Shrewd Farms in an attempt to recreate a recent scenario his brother shared with his father. This episode is so Spitzer, his fingerprints are all over this with the spectacle and the pizzazz.
I'm actually really disappointed in how poorly my book is doing. I've only sold 1 copy. Chapter 2. Announcing guests as they enter is the height of decorum. The more volume displayed, the more honor is bestowed upon everyone present. One of the host's most important duties is as dance master. A proper courtly dance sets the tone for the entire afternoon.
Andy deals with his daddy issues over the course of the episode, both allowing him some closure to grow past his problems and endearing us and his staff to him along the way. Spooked gets my vote for one of the best Halloween episodes of the series and will probably be in my rankings as one of the best episodes in season 8. Robert's enigmatic moves throughout this episode make it interesting to watch as he works through each of the office staff, dealing with their own problems, arguments, and fears. The episode serves as a transition from the Justify Andy as manager arc to a general office mid-season vibe of things are just happening, which sounds like criticism and it's not. These inner arc grooves are where I think some of the best office stuff happens.
It's the game of cards that gets you hard.
Though this episode does introduce us to one additional arc, which is a love triangle between Andy, Aaron, and Andy's new girlfriend, Jessica.
Wow. I'm so happy for you guys. Let me know when you get to 40.
Robert's personally applicable ghost story helps resolve everyone's fears and carries us forward unto doom.
Wait, so you installed a doomsday device?
No, it's an accountability booster.
Which, when it goes off, it destroys everything, very similar to a doomsday device.
Jim, you're trying to make me sound like some kind of evil maniac.
Dwight, who's been coping with not getting the manager position after discharging a firearm in the workplace, attempts to set Andy up to fail big for his boss. In the process, if the staff make one too many mistakes, via some artificial intelligence that Dwight must have worked up in his spare time at Shrewd Farms. And now I'm thinking I may have missed an opportunity for a Computron joke in that field guide.
Shut up.
With the findings from the banker that his recommendation was to close this branch. Impossible dystopian workforce perfection monitoring software aside, after triggering the device, the staff go headlong to Shrewd Farms to make headway with the nihilist version of Dwight, while Jim attempts to destroy Robert's phone.
Right now? Yes, there you go.
Whoa, no, wait.
Dwight disables his machine, chooses humans,
Nobody's nerfect, right?
and Gabe attempts to make moves on one of his employees.
Toby, I'm going to tell you her last name tomorrow because she's going to be screaming it tonight.
She's going to be screaming her own last name?
But Daryl's like, hold my beer, bro. Or my coffee.
That's too much doodle and not enough lab.
Yeah, when are they gonna do a labradoodle that's just lab?
That's what I'm saying.
I don't feel like the dynamic is supposed to read this is boss to employee, but these are her bosses, and she is an employee.
In today's fast-paced business climate, it can sometimes be hard to know when a comment or an action crosses the line.
Because she's going to be screaming it tonight.
Moving on, Pam's replacement introduces us to a new character in Kathy.
Look at her. Even I want some fries with that shake.
Which somewhat answers the question if Pam's made-up job actually has any validity or not. Like, I don't think that they would hire a temp to replace Kevin if he had to go on leave for a few months.
Based on his merit.
Though Pam's behavior in this episode is a bit insecure, really wanting Jim to confirm that he believes that Kathy is attractive. Lots of interesting conversation in the comments of that video on whether or not we should tell our very pregnant and hormonal significant other that we find someone else attractive. It's probably not good to say that there is a right or a wrong here, just a range of wise to unwise things to do. And it is important to remember that this is all just cringe comedy and, the writers are just playing with the character of Pam because it works to that effect in this episode.
We've established that you guys hate Pam.
But the science of trauma is still very actively being studied, and when someone is at a heightened state of emotions and stress and anxiety, especially driven by any kind of weird hormonal thing like you're pregnant.
Is it pregnant Helen Mirren?
Okay. And that person experiences, or at least perceives, a deep emotional wound, they can have a profound effect on the brain. To the point that even when the person returns to their default state of emotional well-being, the wounds are still there, and they're still left grappling with the ramifications for that.
Why was he making her laugh so much?
Brains are weird, and we are weird. So yes, truth matters, but also not wounding a human that really matters to you is also important. So, you find the balance.
Oh, baby, I love your way.
That was my speech. Speaking of speeches,
I need her like I need a hole in the head. Bang!
Andy takes a blend of winners and losers to Gettysburg to maybe reenact arguably the best scene from an early 2000s film about the end of segregation in a small town in America.
Take a lesson from the dead. If we don't come together right now on this hollow ground, we too will be destroyed, just like they were.
Andy, this whole idea of our situation being just like war, it's just not true. We just work at a paper company.
That scene being the turning point in the movie for the team to get back on the bus, united, ready to go back and be perfect.
Nothing come between us.
We are team.
Surely was the inspiration that Andy was going for here.
I commissioned this flag for Dunder Mifflin. Cost me $200.
Only $200?
Robert, meanwhile, attempts to get some new product lines going, but he just keeps showing up in Scranton to chum it up with Andy and...
Chumbo.
There's already been a lot of decisions made that are odd, but at this point in the season, we're now just like doing things for no real reason, which admittedly is kind of The Office's model, but it lacks the poignant writing and commentary on society and the workplace. All of that stuff felt vivid in earlier seasons, and now it just feels
somewhat vapid.
Last time I'm going to use that word. Thanks again, Michael.
Thanks.
In my head, I can kind of hear the writer's room discussion of let's pit Robert against Kevin. It'll be funny. And sure, there are some laughs to be had here.
Oh, my. It was just actually cookies the whole time.
Because we have a very well-established dumb character bouncing off the wild card that is played by a very well-established actor. Depth is always what we make of it, and the Gettysburg trip and Robert's trip to Scranton are essentially useless. And this whole episode feels as though the train that we were on has now fully detoured. And quick interjection off script here, that is because at this point, they have been reinforcing Andy is good for this position.
We like you as regional manager.
Andy will be good for the office and the manager seat. But now we're just doing things.
Don't look where I am. Look where I'm going. Too great. Too quick.
Andy. Speaking of doing things, next stop, Mrs. California.
In 4 seconds, my wife is going to be coming through that door. I told her she can work here. Under no circumstances can that be allowed to happen.
My weird crush on her aside, the episode surrounding Mrs. California, or more likely Mrs. Kazamakis, she just shows up at the office and things happen.
Where's Jim?
He just rolled out and crawled out.
It all really does just set up the rest of the season that Robert's going to be going through some things and potentially spiraling off screen.
I had a one-man Saturnalia last night in celebration of the finalization of my divorce.
Also, Dwight sets up a gym in the empty office spaces downstairs. Doesn't add much to the episode, but is a great t-shirt idea.
Dwight Schrute's Gym for Muscles.
We then take a pit stop to Christmas Wonderland to make everyone's Christmas wishes come true.
My wish that we don't have to attend meetings that degrade our sense of adulthood.
Provided by Andy.
That I cannot do, but I did get you an acre of property on the moon.
Now, Andy has his special lady friend coming to the office party, and jealousy-fueled shenanigans ensue.
I just want you to know that I will be mean to Jessica if you want me to be.
Oh, no, it's fine, Kelly. Game on.
On it. Jessica, did you just fart?
The final stop on the awkward Polar Express is a hot pursuit of Andy and Meredith's meth-mobile.
Hey, it was college.
Tailing a freshly separated Robert California, taking home a very intoxicated Aaron. All ends well with the only gifts being given are respect. And also maybe Andy still has feelings for Aaron? ? Nobody cares. The B plot follows the reverse prank war between Jim and Dwight, which basically works to demonstrate the escalating emotional ride of the A plot. Y'all know I'm a sucker for Jim Dwight pranks, so I actually do love this episode. Following that, Trivia sees a majority of the office staff doing a trivia night to make up the difference in the final revenue projections that Robert wanted the office staff to meet, and hijinks ensue.
Okay, I cannot have my phone. I'm sorry.
Meanwhile, Dwight visits the top of the totem pole in Tallahassee in order to notch himself up a little bit higher in said pole.
When something comes along that is right for you, I'll try you out.
From pole to pool, party. This episode sees the staff living out a Robert California-led pool party at his Scranton mansion, which definitely looks like it's in the suburbs. Nevertheless, the episode follows Robert California as he has a retrospective from his years spent in marital bliss with the 90s version of Wolverine's Dream Woman. I spent way too long trying to figure out how to say that without using my YouTube handle in the third person, but literally could not figure out a better way to say that. Anyway, the awkward love triangle is in full swing with Aaron recruiting Dwight to help her steal Andy from Jessica.
Make Andy jealous.
I'm not going to help you. Why would you choose me? Because I'm mighty? Because I'm the manliest man in the office? I'll do it.
Which, even though Andy was seriously consider proposing to this woman, seems like, maybe he does have his eyes set on Aaron after all. Nobody cares. Jury duty really serves as the finale to the Andy's a good choice for manager arc. Also, Pam had a baby in there somewhere. Don't think that episode made a thing of it. Rather, I think it was like an in-universe blog post that was released about Pam's pregnancy. Anyway, Angela does have her baby in this episode, and it kicks off the
That baby is a shroot
plot line, which will last for, let's say, the next 35 episodes. Lots of people fat shame a newborn in this episode.
Philip is so fat.
Jim and the A-plot took some time off to help Pam with their 2 babies under the excuse of jury duty being extended, even though he was released in an afternoon. Detective Dwight figures that something is definitely off about Jim's story. Andy is then made complicit to Jim's shenanigans. And when everybody finds out that Jim was lying, everybody's mad at him until they realize that having 2 kids is hard or something. But Andy definitely deserves to be regional manager because character growth. Now we move into the special project arc that's going to carry us into the second half of the season. As Pam's maternity leave ends, several of the office staff go to birth their own special project in Tallahassee, led by none other than Dwight Schrute. Most of this episode revolves around the selection of Dwight's team, which ultimately comes down to
Kathy. What? Stanley. No. Ryan.
No!
Aaron. And Jim.
You gotta be kidding me. Okay.
In Tallahassee, the group meet their new boss, which is Joe Bennett's old pal that we last saw in the search committee episode.
Socky.
We were all hoping that that would be the last time we saw her. Dwight, attempting to earn his promotion, risks even death for the job, which makes no sense, and I actually love that bit. But having worked in corporate America for, approaching like half of my life now, it's not worth it, man. Don't die. You couldn't spend your money.
You guys sound just like the enemies of Seabiscuit.
And for no other reason, Todd Packer's back.
Quick query, Halpert. No way. Still queer.
Now back at home, Andy explores the hole left in the office and his heart, ? When Aaron left for Florida.
I don't care.
After Hours gets to the underbelly of corporate America's sliminess with Dwight and Packer trying to court their boss for a promotion.
If anyone's having sex with Nellie for personal gain, it's me. And I'm not joking at all.
Pam's replacement attempting to conquer the last bastion of Jim's bedroom.
Is this March Madness? I love March Madness.
Oh, no, that's not this, because that's in March.
And The Office gives us commentary on how scorched earth is the only way to truly get rid of seductresses and bed bugs. Meanwhile, back at the office, Daryl's sneaky seduction techniques come to light when Val's boyfriend brings in some catering dishes from the restaurant he owns, I think we find out later.
You must be doing real good since you're f***ing my girlfriend.
Test the Store is officially the midpoint of the Tallahassee arc. And the store is opening, and the crew attract 2012's version of what influencers were.
Bloggers. Dossier on bloggers. Bloggers are gross. Bloggers are obese. Bloggers have halitosis. You're gonna love them.
Ryan's out of the store, leaving Dwight with no one else to turn to for the big presentation than his arch nemesis he just ate a bunch of pies and stuff with in the last episode. Jim pulls off the inspirational speech, given the material inspirational at least.
There are no rules anymore.
And the day is a big enough win for Schrute to get the assistant to whatever Nellie's job is. In Scranton, the writers begin to actively work against some of the established good graces towards Andy that they really worked hard to give us at the beginning of the season. Now he's sucker punched by some little girl and then lies about it to the office, concocting a very Michael-esque conference room experience for the staff. Yeah! And results in, like, the little turd coming with her mom to apologize.
How about we wait till next year after you have your kid?
Last day in Florida sees Michael, sad. Last day in Florida sees Robert California's scheme to consider the Sabre store a failure, regardless of its promising start. Jim, now wise to the plan, is burdened with glorious purpose and tries to help a brother out.
I just think you should know
that you look like the world's tallest hobbit.
It fails.
I tried. You saw it, so it's on the record.
Pam's like, nuh-uh.
Look, you haven't dealt with him in a while, all right? He's like super Dwight. It's like he's been bitten by a radioactive Dwight.
Jim's now burdened with more glorious purpose.
I have a date with Destiny, and from what I hear, she's a...
Russell's Dwight, who has 3-week-old stitches in his abdomen, in order to prevent him from getting fired when Nellie gives the presentation.
I don't see Dwight. He clearly had the infinite wisdom to stay as far away from this clown show as possible,
thus saving his job in the process. Meanwhile, Andy's dealing with hearing that Aaron is not coming back to Scranton. At the end of this episode, the Tallahassee branch, minus Kathy, who's never seen or heard from again, returns, and then Andy jets out immediately via Prius for the southern coast to get the girl.
I'm in Florida to get Erin. As soon as I heard she wasn't coming back to Scranton, I jumped straight in my car and drove straight down till I hit the ocean.
Get the Girl follows Andy's journey and plea to win Aaron back, who actually let him down very easy, and it's a fantastic example of a journey of 1,000 miles ending terribly, but in like a beautiful way.
And I think at some point in my head, it just sort of clicked that we're not meant to be.
I'm so sorry that we have not loved each other at the same time.
It works so well. And then she catches up with him as he's driving away and ruins season 9.
It's that I just don't care.
Back at the office, Nellie shows up and takes over Andy's job. No one likes this in the office and people watching the office. And then they all love Nellie by the end of this episode, except Jim, who is aware of what a Nellie-led office would be like.
And start looking at my penis.
Welcome Party sees everybody in the office now hating Nellie for no particular reason, except that she swooped in, became all their bosses for no reason. So they're all mean to her, and they throw her an unwelcome party. Jim and Pam end up standing in the gap and attempt to shield Nellie from some of that hate, thus taking some hate in the process.
Every day, I imagine how happy I'd be if Pam died.
Andy brings Aaron with him to his then current girlfriend's totally normal and not unconventional at all midweek day drinking destination bachelorette party. And the breakup doesn't go well. But in the end, Aaron and Andy are happy, and that's all that matters, I guess.
Now we're in this weird dance.
I'm afraid you've lost my interest.
Well, hold up. Andy's not happy anymore. In fact, he's angry. Angry Andy follows Andy, dealing with his impotence in the form of not being powerful enough to achieve his job that he had 3 days ago, and also like impotent in the form of not being able to.
I had a problem with Aaron last night.
I think I should mention here too that now the office staff seem to be more on Nellie's side than Andy's side.
Angela? Doc Andy's pay $100. On it!
Every day, I imagine how happy I'd be if Pam died.
All of this has happened in a week.
Chumbo, come on, help me out. Any problems with little Chumbo?
Tip top shape.
Things escalate.
Why don't you take a seat, idiot?
Andy punches the same wall from season 3.
He does not like that wall.
And then quits by being fired.
If you say no one more time, you're fired. Is there anything else you want to say?
No.
Meanwhile, Kelly and Ryan broke up off screen at some point, and now Kelly's dating a very fine Indian doctor. And Ryan is, of course, jealous. Not jealous of Kelly, per se.
If you're into Indian people. I'm not.
But more because having Kelly swoon over him meant way more to him than any of their relationship actually did. So he makes a big spectacle. Kelly both rejects him and accepts him. And I can't help but feel like that's the office writer saying, suck it, to an audience who's pot committed to the series at this point. We're just here to take any old Ryan on a horse bit to say, this is good, right?
I know, right?
You know, my rectal electroejaculator is rated for bovine use only, but I could let you rent it.
Turf war is a result of Robert's newfound trait of being a bad CEO.
Not going to start doubting my drunken self now.
And as a result, he drunkenly shut down the Binghamton branch that we had never heard of ever before this point. And now I'm wondering if Robert's downward spiral all happened off screen, but all started when...
Oh my. It was just actually cookies the whole time.
It's like that moment broke Robert California. Anyway, the branch that we never heard of shutting down is kind of a big deal. And Scranton and all of the other Dunder Mifflinites around the area are all swooping up those old customers. And I don't think this is how any company actually handles their internal and external relationships. A random salesman shows up and he's so pissed that Jim, Dwight, and Lloyd Gross are stealing these sales.
Who the hell are Jim Halpert and Dwight Schrute?
Jim, Dwight, what are your last names?
That he drives this far just to yell at them and or beat them up. But the three of them end up driving to a huge sales opportunity, attempting to sabotage one another in the process. And they can blame Robert for the downfall of the company, but they're actively participating in behavior that they know would be bad for the company. None of that matters though, because Andy beat them to the punch. And by the way, I called this guy Human Homer Simpson in that field guide. That wasn't a joke. Like, this is the guy that voices Homer Simpson. And the episode ends with Andy back on top with a newfound, presumably legitimate business called
Big Red Paper Company.
And he offers this sale back to Robert in exchange for his old job. And Robert's like, no. And that's all he says.
I will not be blackmailed by some ineffectual, privileged, effete, soft-penis debutante. You don't even know my real name. I'm the Lizard King.
The end of the episode shows the manager making his second sale of the day to David Wallace, who presumably somehow buys Saber without Robert California knowing about it. Kevin really did a number to this guy.
I do the numbers.
The finale sees all of this kind of come to a conclusion, with Dwight hosting free family portraits for business park folks. All of this, of course, is a ruse to Gene steal some juicy DNA to get his paternity test to finally answer the question, is that baby a shroot? Meanwhile, Andy attempts to live out his rags to riches story and keeps having his juicy moment ruined by mainly himself. Meanwhile, Daryl actively attempts to coerce a breakup between one of his employees and her boyfriend, as he's been flirting via text now for weeks or months, and she, his employee, is not moving fast enough for his desires. He does end up with her, and much like Aaron and Andy, yay, Robert's gone, David's back, Daryl and Val are a thing, Aaron and Andy are a thing, Dwight's paternity hangs in the balance, and everyone else is present. And that is season 8. And I have more thoughts. Let's talk about it.
This is the worst.
As with any season of television, there is just so much to talk about. 24 episodes spanning roughly 9 hours of content. And season 8 of The Office is one of the most hated seasons of one of the most beloved series in existence, at least in the US. I went into this season's field guides cautiously hopeful. And rightfully so. Each season has its own thing, right? Season 1 was new, hard to judge. Season 2 is an evolution of The Office, attempting to find the balance of representing its source cringe material and invoking some sense of its own heart and presence. Season 3 perhaps perfected that model. Season 4 was set to be huge, but then was plagued by the 2008 writer's strike. Season 5 had a chance to reinvent itself with the Super Bowl episode, and as such started leaning into bigger ideas, changing the fabric of the show in the process. Season 6 at least attempts to balance the Season 5 model with the Season 3 model to varying degrees of success. Season 7 is when Michael was leaving, and as such, it prioritizes Michael's arcs higher than everything else. And then Season 8 then is, can a post-Season 5 Office work without Michael/Steve Carrell? Was he a necessary ingredient in this chili? Which is the question that I asked in this video. My opinion was, back then, yeah? Like, The Office is bigger than any one person or any one character. And working through the last season, it is clear to me that The Office could have worked without Michael. But they had to execute on it flawlessly. And, to use a corporate term, they had to exceed our expectations. Instead, the creators time and time again made these micro and macro level decisions that just didn't make sense. Choosing Ed Helms' character, Andy, as the manager, and by proxy the heart and soul of the show, it was a bad choice. And the character had not been given much love since he appeared in Season 3. And it was clear, similar to Carrell in between Season 1 and Season 2, Helms' off-screen movie career had given NBC a path beyond Carrell. This, of course, was stupid. It's even dumber to know that a phone call could have kept Carrell on The Office, meaning that Season 7 would have played out entirely different, and thus Season 8 would have equally been different. But taking what we got, the idea to start with the assumption that everybody on screen and off screen agrees that Andy doesn't deserve to be manager was a good call. Thus, the decision to focus on justifying that choice is exactly what we needed. And it is what dominates our screen for the first major arc of the season. The List, Incentive, Lotto, and Garden Party all do a very good job, albeit Garden Party does start falling off the rails a little bit, but they all do a good job of trying to demonstrate why this character deserves to be the heart and the soul of the show. Anytime a show needs to change a character from good to evil or dumb to smart, they do so with storyboarding major arcs for the character, writing balanced and believable lines for the character, and maybe most importantly, the writers use other characters, which the audience would naturally project themselves into to inform how the audience might feel about said character. When The Office needed Michael to not seem like a villain, but still do villainous things for the sake of the soul of the show, they opted to have the other characters begin to change their vibe towards Michael, mainly Jim and Pam. But a key improvement in Michael's behavior was written in how he treated Dwight. When Parks and Rec needed Leslie Knope to not seem like a bumbling idiot with delusions of grandeur, they tweaked her dialogue, but really they pivoted away from people rolling their eyes at the character to having each of them just reluctantly assume that Leslie was maybe annoying, but she was going to be right in her passion. And why doesn't Jake Peralta seem like a terrible person who doesn't take a very serious job very seriously? It's because there is a careful dynamic in that world, which is intentionally built to make sure that what we read in the show as funny, as humorous storytelling is purposefully built in to ensure that Jake's motives is read the way the creators want them to. So over the course of the first 6 episodes, we start out strong with the creators giving us reason after reason to root for this unlovable dummy. They then shift into a more problem-focused area of the season, with no real clear hero status for Andy. Doomsday, Mrs. California, Trivia, Pool Party, all are fine episodes of The Office, but Andy is nowhere near the heart and the focus of those episodes, even though he has major plot lines. At no point during these episodes are we really like, yeah, Andy's my guy, which is juxtaposed to Michael when he's doing terrible things. We're all still left going, yeah, but he's my guy. Perhaps they thought that the initial arc could push audiences through Cringe Mountain into Cool Valley, but I think we were hung up somewhere on that little trolley thing, and it never went over the edge. And from that terrible vantage point, things just started happening left and right. And then Andy inextricably begins to act stupid and terrible with no redeeming qualities. And worst of all, most of the Office staff are just written to outright disregard Andy. Somewhere along the way, while the creators were losing the love for the show, they were losing sight of what made the show good in the first place. The failure of transitioning Andy to manager is one of those signs. Another is a lack of anything for Jam to do in this entire season. Now, given Fisher's real-life pregnancy was looming, I understand the circumstances, but the only notable bullet point for them in season 8 is Kathy, and that's not good enough for an entire season of television for 2 out of 4 main characters. The last remaining main character at the moment has a little bit more of a compelling story here, but it does feel like they're just throwing darts at the wall after he bought the office park, opting to use his owner status to generate bits rather than compelling story. Further, we had an opportunity to see Dwight in the manager seat, and he almost shot somebody. So like, why then is part of his story for season 8 this quest to get back into some sort of leadership position in Dunder Mifflin? Any sane person would go, no, that door's shut, buddy. Time to look at beats. Now, at least Dwight's quest does shift ever so slightly into finding some purpose in potential fatherhood with his special lady friend of old. Aaron, after almost zero agency throughout the entire series, I guess until this moment, has an opportunity here in season 8 to shine, because I think that they were maybe playing with this cyclical nature of things with Aaron's breakup with Gabe, akin to Pan's breakup with Roy, and the couple's eventual will they won't they concluding with a grand spectacle. Thing is, concluding a season with Aaron and Andy finally getting together is like having a fireworks grand finale ending with a bottle rocket. It's not a lot to look at, and it's kind of annoying to even watch. The Andy arc fizzled out, the Tallahassee arc fizzled out, the Get the Girl arc fizzled out. Everything ends as it began, albeit a few more humans exist in the world now. But this is how The Office ends. Not with a bang, but with a whisper.
You make very compelling argument.
Well, it definitely returns from the ashes in season 9 with gobs of new zany, well-lit hijinks and shenanigans and all the drama of a Hallmark movie. And then it rounds out to a decently good farewell to the series. So much to talk about in season 9. Join me, will you? Like and subscribe. Tell all of your friends to follow as we close in on the final episodes of this 5-year journey for me. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.